Welcome into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We will be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports content. Wade, happy Monday.
What's up, Mo? Good to be with you. Good to see everybody here today. Big show, big weekend. Ready to rock and roll here on this good-looking Monday.
Should be a lot of fun, man. A lot to get into, a lot to crack open. Football at all levels, from preps to pros, as we like to say around here. Got some baseball to get into as well. In the next hour, we will be joined by Billy Derrick of Vandy 24/7, talking little Commodores, top 10 Commodores. And I know that's a shock to a lot of folks' system, but it's going to be a lot of fun here. Looking forward to talking to Billy about the events of the past weekend and the events of the coming weekend. A lot of fun when you got a winning team in town. So, and ain't a whole lot of them. In the next segment, we will be joined by Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio. He's got a face for radio, y'all, trust me. Out of Fresno, talking a little UT Alabama and some other Big Orange talk to get into some stuff over the weekend, non-football related, that I'm looking forward to getting into with Christopher when we get him on in the next segment. Again, we'll be talking a little Major League Baseball playoffs, and we got to go back to Friday night. There have been some sleeps since arguably one of the best postseason performances in any sport, but want to get back and reflect on that a little bit as well. More college football. We'll talk a little NFL. I guess we are kind of contractually obligated to do so. So we'll get into that. A lot of college football activity off the field this weekend as well. We'll touch on that. Preds are headed home after a not great road trip, but could have been a lot worse. Also, we'll get into some Nashville Soccer Club as they wrapped up the regular season this weekend. Talk a little NASCAR as well. So, again, plenty to get into over the next couple of hours, and looking forward to touching on all of it. Wade, I guess we should just dive right in. What do you think?
Yeah, I say so. We got a lot to cover over the next couple, so we might as well get this party started.
There we go. Let's get it started with this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Monday Rundown is brought to you each and every single Monday by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County, so give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831, or you can visit them online at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Let's get started with some Friday night football results. Adamsville with a 35-7 victory over Loretto. Battleground Academy down Pope John Paul II, 56-14. Beach handled Gallatin 62-29. Blackman with a 35-7 win over Smyrna. Brentwood and Franklin, the oldest football rivalry in Williamson County, and Brentwood comes out on top of that one, 21-14. Fairview 42, Camden Central 36. Watertown with a 27-9 win over Cascade. Lipscomb Academy defeated Christian Brothers out of Memphis by a field goal, 27-24. Summit snaps a 6-game losing streak, defeating Coffee County in Region 6 6A play, 35-21. Columbia Central in overtime down in Lincoln County, 28-27. Nashville Christian, no overtime, 70-0 over Columbia Academy. It was Ezel Harding 40, Zion Christian 17. Lawrence County with a big win in Region 4-5A, 52-7 at Franklin County. Friendship Christian defeated Franklin Christian 31-10. Good Pasture with a 24-7 win over Grace Christian out of Franklin, and Green Hill defeated Lebanon 22-15.
Other scores coming in from Friday night. Hendersonville knocking off Station Camp in a wild one, 37-36. That game was broadcast on television. Hope you set your DVRs on Friday night. East Nashville trouncing Hickman County on Friday night. We broadcast this one on Main Street Preps Radio. Didn't go so hot for the Bulldogs. East Nashville streaking toward that October 30th showdown, Mo, versus East Robertson for the district crown, a region crown. There should be fun. Other scores from Friday night: Eagleville all over Huntland, 44-7. That region is now wide open after Huntland suffers a region loss there. Jackson Northside fell victim to Giles County in a rare long non-region game, 47-21, your final there on Friday night. More scores: Oakland 56, Laverne nothing. It was Mount Pleasant all over East Hickman, 36-6. Nolensville topping Centennial. Tumultuous week for Centennial, and Nolensville winning at 26-14 on Friday night. Page downing Independence 34-14. Davidson Academy on top of Portland 21-6. 49-14 was your final. Providence Christian over Providence Academy. Richland walloping Summertown 30-10. It was Riverdale blanking Siegel 37-0 was your final there. A 1-point ball game and a kind of a shootout as Rockvale defeats Tullahoma in a good one, 39-38 Friday night. Ravenwood turning back Shelbyville 45-14. Spring Hill blanking Battle Creek 35-0. It was Stewart's Creek with a 49-26 win over Knoxville Webb. Westmoreland defeating Stratford 27-13. Middle Tennessee Christian 35, Tipton Rosemark 28. White House knocking off Liberty Creek 35-14, and Mount Juliet blanking Wilson Central Friday night 30-0.
In volleyball action on Friday, Battleground Academy picked up a 5-set victory over North Point Christian. 3-2 was the final there. Girls soccer action, Chattanooga Girls Preparatory School with a 1-0 win over Harpeth Hall. Also, St. Agnes out of Memphis edged Lipscomb Academy 3-2. Major League Baseball action on Friday night. It was Seattle with a 6-2 win over Toronto, and the Los Angeles Dodgers closing out the Milwaukee Brewers 5-1. More on that later.
Let's go to Saturday, and let's go back to volleyball as Knoxville Catholic defeats Lipscomb Academy 3-2. Lakeway Christian topping Providence Christian 3-1. It was Middle Tennessee Christian over Notre Dame 3-0. Silverdale Academy with a straight set victory as well, 3-0 over Franklin Road Academy. Girls soccer on Saturday afternoon, Briarcrest Christian with a 7-1 victory over Brentwood Academy. Father Ryan slipping by Chattanooga Christian 3-1 your final there. It was Franklin Road Academy 3, BGA 1, and DCA knocked off Grace Christian Franklin 4-2.
College football action on Saturday. Vanderbilt, that was 17th ranked Vanderbilt 31, number 10 LSU 24. Tennessee State snapping a skid with a 24-7 homecoming victory over Howard. Alabama 37, Tennessee 20, and Georgetown with a 34-13 win over Cumberland. That's Georgetown, Kentucky. Major League Soccer action. Inter Miami comes to Geodis and gets out with a 5-2 victory over Nashville Soccer Club, closing the regular season. And in NHL action, it was host Winnipeg with a 4-1 win over the Nashville Predators.
Take us to Sunday. Yesterday's scores, had a couple of them to give you guys as the Pats defeated the Titans 31-13 at Nissan Stadium, and the Blue Jays kept things alive and kept things interesting as they defeat the Mariners last night. 6-2 was your final up there in the Great White North. Let's go to the schedule for tonight. Double dose of Monday Night Football should be a dandy at 6 p.m. on ABC when the Lions play host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Should be an entertaining game, but for different reasons, as Houston and Seattle, two really good defenses, will duke it out at 9 p.m. That broadcast will be on ESPN. If football's not your cup of tea, you got one more game in that ALCS we just mentioned at 7:08 tonight. It'll be a winner-take-all situation as Seattle and Toronto will duke it out. Again, 7:08, your first pitch, and you can see that game on Fox. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us whole on our schedule. Those were your weekend results, and that concludes our Monday Rundown.
Top story brought to you is by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And I feel pretty certain that before Saturday, you had Curry College in Massachusetts. You hadn't heard of Monty Quinn either, but there's a pretty good chance that you've heard of both as we delve into this. Curry College is a Division III football program, and Monty Quinn rushed for 522 yards on 20 carries in Curry's 71-27 win over Nichols College, not to be confused with Nichols State out of Thibodaux, Louisiana. I'm sorry, Houma, Louisiana. Quinn's performance was 95 better than the FBS single game, single player rushing record of 427 set by Samaji Piran a few years ago. Across all divisions, the record for a single game rushing performance was 465 yards. Cartel Brooks did that for Heidelberg back in 2013. 20 carries, 522 yards. Quick math will tell you that's 26.1 yards per.
Stupid numbers. Somebody left the controller either on the ground or
Also
somebody
scored 7 touchdowns.
7 TDs. I mean, somebody left the game and the settings on varsity mode for this guy. Just unbelievable stuff. And like you said, I was waiting to hear the stat line because just eye-popping numbers. And, you know, sometimes you see a guy get hot, whether it's throwing the football or running the ball or receiving, obviously, and, you know, they just get in the zone. But sometimes with those just 20 carries, I mean, hey, you're just talking about just ripping off massive chunks of yards every single time. Props for him. Feel bad for the opponent who's on the wrong side of history here. But kudos to the Colonels for getting the win. And, you know, Monty Quinn, 522 on the ground.
522, had touchdowns of 85 and 84. And Curry took it kind of easy on Nichols late. Quinn sat out the final 2 drives.
Whew.
So I would imagine the Nichols defense said, thanks, appreciate you. 5'9", 180, Monty Quinn. Again, 522 rushing yards on 20 carries in Saturday's 71-27 win over Nichols. That's nuts. I mean, he slept well Saturday night, I would think.
Yeah, big man on campus, to say the least, right? As he's kind of strutting about. Epic performance there. And you mentioned Samaje Perine, you know, he's doing it for the Bengals still currently. But this top 10 in the FBS is littered with greats. You got Melvin Gordon, LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Falk. I mean, it is some impressive folks that you're now lapping and not just beating by, you know, 5 or 6 yards, talking about almost 100 yards to the good there. I mean, that is a epic performance. I feel pretty confident that not a lot of other defensive units want to see this guy going forward. And I also imagine if you're into this would be the great week, Mo, for the old switcheroo. Now you only run him like 2 or 3 times and you really go pass happy next week.
That's interesting. On the season, Quinn's got 1,450 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, has gone for at least 110 in all 6 of Curry's games and has topped 200 on 3 occasions. So, I mean, it wasn't like he just came out of nowhere, but still, 522 is nuts. Now, to your point, though, it'd be interesting to see what Samaje Perine would have done against Nichols College.
Now we're I mean, we're talking that's when your guy needs the Heisman and you got 1 game left on the video game and you're like, all right, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And so you might be playing All-American settings and then you say, you know what, I'm going to win this thing. So you drop it down to freshman level and take care of business. So kudos to him though. And just a monster performance by him and got the win, obviously. You know, if we were talking about this in a losing effort, which running the football feels like it's going to lead to a win more than, you know, a passing stat we might see or receiving numbers. But massive performance, massive dub. And the rest of the group up there in New England better be on high alert if they aren't already.
Yeah, I'd imagine folks on the rest of the Curry schedule are they've got some sleepless nights coming for some defensive coordinators, I would imagine. I'm interested to know what year Mr. Quinn is, because
senior.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
he was already beautiful stuff. He was already the all-time rushing leader at Curry with 4,435 yards. He now owns, what'd you say the record was? 5-1. He already owns 3 of the top 5 single season rushing records at the school, and he's now their career touchdown king. Just unbelievable stuff. They're averaging like 62 points a game. Didn't know anything about these Colonels until this story popped on our radar. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's basically I love this quote from his coach. Coach Parsons basically said he was an offensive rookie of the year as a freshman. He was co-offensive player of the year as a sophomore. And he was basically up for the the Gagliardi Trophy, which is kind of the D3 Heisman. He was kind of up for that last year. I don't know where the odds are posted for that, but I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure that he is probably right there in the mix after a performance like that.
You'd certainly like to think so. I was just wondering what the transfer portal might look like for a guy who went for 522 at the D3 level, but I guess if he's a senior, then that's kind of off the table for him. But
You can take that to court and maybe get another year or two. I mean, we've seen that happen before.
we have seen that happen before. Absolutely. Congratulations to Monty Quinn of Curry College in Massachusetts and Nichols College. Tough weekend. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today as we get started with the weekend wrap-up edition here presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno, talking a little UT. Stick around.
Got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3-3.
Bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Weekend wrap-up continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Joining us now from the West Coast, specifically from KMJ Radio in Fresno. Biggest Tennessee fan west of the Mississippi is Christopher Gabriel. Christopher, good afternoon.
Mo, it's great to talk to you. Wade, good to see you. Can you hear me okay?
We got you, partner.
So I got to address Monty Quinn first.
Yeah.
The last time, and I do mean the last time that something got my attention like that, I'm going to go all the way back to 1982 when the reports started coming out. Of course, there was no social media, that Cheryl Miller for Riverside Poly had scored 105 points in a 179-15 victory that they pulled away at the end for. And I mean, outside of Wilt Chamberlain, I had never heard anything like that. When I heard the Monty Quinn story at Curry, by the way, is it hot curry? Is it mild curry? I had to say it. That's just, how do you get 522 yards in a game?
Well, you have 2 touchdown runs, one of 85 and one of 84 to start with. But yeah, that's mind-boggling. That, I hope folks that were actually there to see it realize what they saw, because you won't see anything quite like it. And I love
It was their
Reggie-
homecoming too, I learned.
Oh,
So,
so they had a
they had a big time up there.
big crowd. He put it on for the alumni. I love the story that Reggie Miller tells about the night Cheryl scored 100, by the way.
You know, and besides that story, which is great, the stories about the two of them when they play each other, and how, as you would expect with siblings, how markedly different they remember their upbringing as to who beat whom in those matchups in the driveway.
Funny how that works. Christopher, disappointing is one way to put it, I guess. Alabama 37, Tennessee 20. Again, the Vols kind of spit the bit a little bit on the road against a team that going in, you feel like they've got every opportunity to compete with. And while it feels like Josh Heupel has elevated this program during his tenure, they still have these fades against the best teams on their schedule. Georgia, Tennessee, and it almost feels a little inexplicable.
Inexplicable is a perfect way to put it. And there's so many different ways we can go with this on paper. And obviously they don't play the games on paper. But Tennessee, as far as I'm concerned, objectively is every bit the team that Alabama is. But the problem is getting to that next level, because there is another level that Tennessee has failed to get to this point. And the big reason is inexplicably being able to win games like this on the road. A lot of folks going into this year said, well, you know what? Vols have beaten Bama 2 of the last 3. It's like, yeah, but let's look a little deeper at that. When's the last time the Vols won in Tuscaloosa? And, or last time they won in Georgia? It's been a while. Last time they won in Florida? It's been a while. And, Aaron Hayden's been on my program a couple of times. I posted the audio. Of course, Mo, Wade, you guys have heard it, where he says the Vols have to pack up Neyland and take it on the road. And when he talks about that, he says, we used to go into Athens and dominate. That's the word that he used. We went to the swamp, and I'll never forget, he said, they'd be saying things and throwing frozen oranges at us and little liquor bottles, and we would turn around and respond to them in ways that maybe the university wouldn't approve of, but we let them know that we are here to kick their door in. Similarly, with Josh Heupel, I've been a Josh Heupel fan and supporter from day one. I still am, but I'm not a coach, and I was a basketball player. I've never been a football player, but if I can see things that seem clearly wrong with finite points on both sides of the ball, then they should be able to see them and be able to change them. And you think about the end of that first half, and you run this through, and you've already done this, I'm sure, but the timeout's called. They come out in the same set. It's a terrible pass, just terrible play. The whole series of downs was bad. But if the Vols, magic if here, if the Vols get in, it's 16-14. They stopped Bama on their first series coming out of the second half. The Vols scored. Suddenly the Vols are ahead, and it's a different game. Maybe it ends up with Bama winning, but it's not 37-20. And the reason I went through that again is because it's those little things, those little mistakes here and there, a drop ball here, a dumb penalty on that first drive. Again, the classic first drive, dumb mental mistake that seems to happen to this football program over and over and over. And at what point is this program going to be able to clean that stuff up? The tackles, they had at least 2 times on replay showing a guy throwing his shoulder into somebody, into a runner on Bama, instead of wrapping up. Even I know the idea, the good technique is to wrap up. So it's these little things that seem to get away from the Vols that Bama figured out, that Georgia's figured out, that LSU's championship run under Joe Burrow, they figured out, that Ohio State's figured out, that Oklahoma going back to Bob Stoops, they figured out. Again, I'm still very much behind Josh Heupel, but I just wonder, fellas, at what point does he look inward and say, we've got a couple of fundamental issues here that we need to address? Does it mean getting a different coach here and there, an assistant coach? I don't know what the answer is, but sometimes it's hard to look inward when the only people looking inward are the people in that same room.
Yeah. Christopher, you brought it up, and I gotta, this is the classic age-old internet debate from that particular sequence at the end of the first half. Did the coaching staff set Joey Aguilar up for failure there with the kind of the play call and the formation, or does Aguilar have to be better than that in your mind? I'm curious your thoughts on that 99 second massive return by Alabama in that stadium in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's a little both, but I think it's more they set him up for failure there. But I really believe that if it's me, I'm passing on first down, running on second down. Joe, you come out of the timeout and you're in the same formation, and you're looking like you're set up to run, and there's nobody in that stadium. There's nobody watching on TV. My 18-year-old daughter was when we were at UCSD family weekend. She knew that they weren't going to run, and she's not a big football fan. So it's those moments, Wade, that Josh Heupel, I don't care if it's 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 57, Josh Heupel is almost always running the ball. We all know that. He's done it for 5 years. And it's sometimes the emperor's new clothes begins to play out, where everybody knows what's coming. Everybody knows what's going on. The only person that doesn't realize he's not fooling anybody is Josh Heupel. And listen, I'm not trying to dump all over him, but let's call it what it is. That play was set up for failure. That whole Bama defense knew we were passing. And then the Joey part of it, Wade, is it's just a bad pass. You cannot go inside on that pass. You simply cannot go inside on that. Throw it away. Make him extend to dive, but do not throw it inside where he doesn't even have to jump the route. He simply has to say, excuse me, I just want to get this. Okay, I have to go 99 now. So it was a little of both, but just disaster. That singular play more than anything else. I never like to say a game rests on one play because we always hear that at the end of a game.
Sure felt like it.
Oh, absolutely. That whole game changed in that singular moment, fellas.
Well, again, you go from 16-14 to 23-7 going into the break.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie there.
Nope.
The numbers did lie in the post game, though, and I think this is what's especially galling for UT fans. UT outran Alabama, outthrew Alabama, and outgained Alabama. Had more first downs, ran more total plays, also gave up more sacks. But offensively, Tennessee outperformed Alabama.
They did, and there were a lot of fans that said, well, that didn't happen till the end. No, most of the game, the Vols were neck and neck with Bama or a little bit ahead in terms of statistically, and it just shows how those tiny mistakes add up to big moments. And again, forgive me for being redundant, but a dropped ball here and there. Mike Matthews comes to mind. But he wasn't alone. A missed tackle where you got a guy behind the line of scrimmage, and then suddenly that missed tackle, he goes for 10 or 12 more. The sack that should have happened, the safety in the end zone, and suddenly it turns into a big play. And finally, we have gotten to a point with Tennessee football, and this harkens back to the 90s against Spurrier, where when the Vols have a team 3rd and long, you might as well pencil in the first down.
Going to make a change.
It just doesn't change for fans who think, young fans who think this is new. And I don't mean to suggest that we're all Father Time here, but you go back to the days of Chavis against Spurrier, and I remember I was in Neyland in '96 with my wife and brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and it was 4th and I think 5 or 7 from like the 35-yard line, and Werfel goes to is either Riddell Anthony or I kill you, but he went for it all in a down.
I believe it was Riddell Anthony to the right corner of the end zone. Yep.
Yes, it was. And it wasn't, for those who don't remember it, it wasn't like a pass 20 yards. It was all the way to the end zone. It was 7-0. I leaned over to my brother-in-law and I said, ball game. Because if he was going to do that then, point being, in fact, that opens another doorway up. And that is, where has the aggressiveness, the fearlessness in play calling gone? I like to say it went out the window with Alex Golish, and a lot of fans like to dismiss that, and they'll throw numbers at me. And I'm not. The Vols have been good. The Vols have been good, but there is a difference in mentality. Maybe that's the thing. In mentality, when Golish was here, he could be up 40 points, and he was getting in somebody's face because he didn't like what was going on. I don't sense that from Joey Hazel. I don't sense that. And again, I'm not in the coach's booth. I'm just saying, as a fan, when I see what's going on, when I remember what 2022 was like, went to a game in Neyland, went to the Orange Bowl, and if the Vols had a team down by 30 or 35, maybe it was Missouri, they just wanted to put their feet not only on their throats, but on their eyeballs, their nose, their ears. Mm-hmm. That's gone. That's just gone. And I don't know, fellas. I don't know how they get that back.
Christopher, you leaned over to your brother-in-law and said ball game. I think that was the sentiment in the press box that day as well. I was there. Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little UT. And it brings up a point. And Dante Stallworth, right as we were coming on the air, had a tweet. Everybody's disappointed, but this is not a fire Josh Heupel type situation. Right. At the same time, though, to your point, there's an aggressiveness, there's an edge that at best seems to come and go with this team. And you can't flip it on and flip it off. And how do you get it flipped on and kept on?
Yeah, I actually quote tweeted that with Dante's. I remember that tweet very well, and he was absolutely right. And it's the response. The fire Heupel stuff to me is nonsense. You look at what he's done. We don't need to go over all the numbers. He's elevated this program to a place that it hadn't been in a long time. But when you get beyond that, how does Tennessee get into the penthouse? Not necessarily winning a championship every year, but competing for championships. Mm-hmm. When he got hired, this was the year. The 5th year was the year that I targeted Tennessee to be championship level and ready to get to a championship game. And that's just not happening this year. It's just not. I see a lot of fans saying, well, we're going to if we win out and we get to the listen, talking about winning out, let's talk about winning at Kentucky this week as a starting point. I don't know that they can flip the switch on or off. I do think, though, Mo, that there may be some new blood needed in that coach's room. Where that has to happen, I don't know. But Josh Heupel, to his credit, we all like to have people around us that we enjoy working around, that we feel comfortable with. But if something's not working, if some piece of the puzzle isn't working, that's what made Spurrier great. That's what made Kirby Smart great. That's what made Nick Saban, especially Nick Saban, great. He didn't care if you were, pounding beers and fishing on his boat. If you were somehow viewed as him as dead weight, you were gone. You were out. He'd find a way to get you hired somewhere else, or maybe you'd get to be a consultant or something like that. But you were out of a key position. And I just wonder, are we at a point now with Tennessee, with the staff, that Josh Heupel needs to take a long, hard look at some of his coaches? We all know some of the names we're talking about, and say, I need to make a decision here.
As a high school administrator friend of mine is fond of saying, if it's you or me, it's you.
It's you.
So
it's you.
I hate to admit it. So after Kentucky, you're talking about winning out. You go to Kentucky this weekend. You've got Oklahoma coming into Neyland the following weekend. 2 weeks. New Mexico State, Diego Pavia ain't walking through that door that weekend. Then you go to Gainesville, and then you finish up the season against Diego Pavia and the number 10 Commodores. So, I mean, winning out, like you said, it might be best to just kind of focus on beating Kentucky this weekend.
Yeah, let's go, one game at a time. I'll be the proverbial, let's take it one game at a time. I'll be in for the Oklahoma game. What's most frustrating for me for this season so far is, Pat Hill, legendary coach here at Fresno State. Mm-hmm. He always likes to say, and he's right. He always says, you know what? We can talk about if this and what happened there, and this should have happened, because you are what your record says you are. And your record says that the Vols have 2 losses. But if we put that into a little box, you look at this season already. Usually we look at the season previous schedules, and by week 3 or 4, they'd already lost to Florida. And so the Vols are already fighting against that loss. But that Georgia game should have been a win, not just because of the kick, but because of giving up the 4th and 6th, because of after the strip sack and not being a little more aggressive. And everybody's had their theories about why the Vols did this or that. Bottom line is they ended up for a field goal, and that opened the door for them. Alabama game, we just talked about at the end of the first half. But it's these things that, again, I feel like we're kind of wrapping this arc back to where we started, fellas. It's these things that happen every year that are holding this team back. And for anybody looking ahead that, if we go 10-2, again, Kentucky, I don't care what they've done before, it's not going to be a walkover. If it is, great. Oklahoma's going to be tough. Mateer's going to come in and probably have a Heisman performance. You're looking at Florida. Nobody needs to talk about the issues that this program has with Florida, especially in Gainesville. And then Diego Pavia and Vandy having an unbelievable year, just a tremendous year.
Flip side of that, Christopher, I do want to ask you, this, if there ever was a proverbial jumping off point, it felt like some of the sharks were circling for Joey Aguilar fans that maybe weren't bought in. It seems like they finally got their bait this weekend. Give me your thoughts, and especially maybe your concerns, if there are any, heading forward with your quarterback heading into the final stretch here.
Yeah, I really don't have, Wade, I really don't have any concerns. Here's a guy who came in here on the West Coast. He with all the whole Nico stuff, comes back, doesn't have a spring, doesn't have a lot of time to learn the playbook. He has thrown for a ton of yards. You knew you were going to get some interceptions with him. That was his history. Part of the reason that you get interceptions with him, not all the reason, but part of the reason is because he's unafraid to put it up and let his receiver or receivers make a play. And give me that guy who is willing to sling it and he's got tremendous athletic receivers, as we all know. I'd rather that than a guy taking off and running as soon as things look a little tight or is afraid to try to thread the needle. So going forward, I'm okay with Joey. I like his leadership. He's calm. You look at his eyes when they show the camera shot from across the line of scrimmage. He never looks panicked. He never looks unnerved. I like that about him. It was unfortunate when he took the safety. It looked like he tripped, a little bit or got caught up on one of his linemen's feet. That stuff happens. It's not perfect, but I think a lot of times fans, not breaking news here, allow their emotions to rule the day versus maybe looking a little bit more logically. This young man has come in. He's a classy young man. He's great with going to the children's hospital in the community. And a lot of fans would say, yeah, but what's he doing on the field? Well, look what he's doing on the field. He's done a lot on the field, but it's not just him. When he puts the ball on the money, the receiver's got to catch the darn ball. You got to catch the darn ball. Every pass isn't perfect, but I'm looking even at Joey Hasley over at the Alabama game. How many deep balls, true deep balls, did we even see on Saturday night? There was maybe 1 or 2, but not the kind where he's airing it out. I thought that Tennessee had the receivers that they could take Alabama's secondary, get some space between them, but we never really saw that a lot. So, Wade, going forward, I'm very comfortable with him. I think that there's a lot of other guys that would probably need to have that question asked of them before him. They need to do their jobs a little bit better. And you know what? It starts with the fellas up in the booth on both sides of the ball that their name has assistant coach after them.
Yeah.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Christopher, before kickoff Saturday, there was some baseball chatter coming out regarding a certain orange wearing coach who might be staying in Orange but on a different coast. Tony Vitello to San Francisco. Thoughts?
Well, so a lot of thoughts, A to Z on this. I won't give you all 26 letters, but I'll give you a couple. This is the Giants. They were in the playoff hunt this year, didn't quite get there. They had a good final month, but they were inconsistent all year. But this really is, as far as organizationally, they are an elite organization. A lot of people don't realize they've won as many World Series as the Dodgers. They have an unbelievable fan base that is there every game. If you've never been to their park, it is stunning. They're about the only settings in baseball that match it are PNC Park in Pittsburgh, and I would say, maybe Camden Yards, but the setting is beautiful. It's very easy to see the lure of wanting to go to the Giants and get them back to where they've been. They tried to get Aaron Judge. They tried to get Shohei Ohtani. Aaron Judge is from the Bay Area. They couldn't quite get him. Everybody knew Shohei Ohtani wasn't going to leave because he has a beautiful setup in Newport Beach. But I'm mentioning all these things because there's a lot of pluses to curry favor with Tony Vitello. Now, it's been pretty well reported that there's been some friction with him and Danny White regarding NIL, moving money, going to the Lady Vols program versus staying with his team. And part of me feels like this delay in what he's doing is because Danny White is trying to, whatever, if this is true, that there's been some friction, that Danny White is doing everything he can do to keep him, because Danny White has his priorities for an entire athletic department that includes Lady Vols athletics, but he's no dummy. He does not want to lose Tony Vitello. And when fans come out and say, just give him whatever he wants, well, that's not really how it works. He already has a great contract. He got a great extension. He's one of the, 2 or 3 top paid coaches in college baseball. They're getting a $100 million facelift at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. He's won a national championship. He's been to 3 College World Series. There's so many things to speak of here. I'm not sure, and this is pure speculation, that Tony was looking to leave for the major leagues just yet. I mean, does he have a legacy at Tennessee that will last forever? Well, with 1 national championship, I think you're on the road. I think you win another one, maybe 2, if you're able to do that, and then they're getting ready to build you a statue. So I don't know. I know that there's been a lot of talk out here, and I've had conversations with a couple of the Giants beat writers asking me what he's like. Is he legitimate? Is he good? And it's like he's everything. I mean, he's everything. Whether that means he'll have success at the major league level is another story. I mean, you can go to football. Steve Spurrier had 0 success when he went to the then Washington Redskins. Not every coach that goes up has that success. I have not heard of a lot of college baseball coaches having, first of all, making that kind of a move right to the managerial position, as opposed to becoming a bench coach, maybe a hitting coach, whatever else, pitching coach, and then finding their way to the manager's seat. I hope he stays, but if he goes, he goes. Vols fans saying, "Oh, he's dead to me." If he, well, I don't think Tony cares, really. Jimmy from Murfreesboro. I don't think Tony cares if he's dead to you. Like to see them keep him, but if they don't, Tennessee baseball will be moving forward. The program will be moving forward. I think they'll be fine. Whether Tony were to have success out here or not, I think that remains to be seen.
Christopher, when you say all that, it makes me wonder, Buster Posey is unconventional already, it seems like, in San Francisco. Is that just what it is? Hey, he's thinking outside the boxes. I'm trying to unravel this from the Giants standpoint here in your mind.
Right.
Yeah, that's very, he really is unconventional. And when this thing started, Wade, everybody out here, I shouldn't say everybody, but everybody in our business basically said, before anybody heard Tony's name, be mindful of the fact that Buster Posey is not a box thinker. You know, he's somebody who's going to climb out of the box, then put his foot on the box and do things his way. That's what he does. That's his way. And the fact that things didn't quite work out this year the way they wanted was considered to be a big fail. I mean, a big fail. And it frustrates this organization to no end that the fellas about 238 miles down the road at Chavez Ravine are getting ready to try to go for back-to-back World Series titles. It makes them nuts up here. It makes them crazy. Anybody who thinks that this rivalry, Dodgers-Giants, is any less intense than Red Sox-Yankees does not know baseball and does not know the history of this rivalry. The fact that it started so fervently in New York City and then found its way out here. So this is not unusual for Buster Posey. We've not heard any other names. It wouldn't surprise me that he has other names, but it seemed like one person, Andrew Grammarly, broke this, and then everybody ran with it without having any kind of knowledge. Because the day that this broke, I talked to my one primary source deeply connected to the Giants, and at that moment, his exact words to me in a text were, CG, I haven't heard this from anyone. So when that was broken, I don't know if it was broken because somebody put that out there through an agent or if he knew something that no one else knew. Now it's everywhere. And I'm at a point out here now where, I mean, I've been trying to get information from a couple of guys up there, and they keep saying, we don't know. No one's telling us anything. So when I read Vols fans saying the longer this goes on, the more likely it means he's not going, I wouldn't necessarily bank on that. As a Vols fan, I hope that's true, but I wouldn't necessarily take that to the bank.
I'm interested much in the same vein as Belichick coming from the NFL to the college ranks, just how well it would be received. I mean, particularly with the structure of professional baseball. You just got so many guys that have been grinding it out for so long in, you know, Augusta and El Paso and Quad Cities and that kind of thing, trying to get a shot to manage one of 30 Major League Baseball teams. And this guy just kind of waltzes in out of Omaha, basically, and gets one of those 30 seats. I mean, it's really going to be a shock to the system of professional baseball, I think, if something like that were to occur. Now, again, to your point, Buster Posey doesn't care, but I think there are a lot of, you know, baseball people that would really struggle with that.
That is a fabulous point, Mo. It really is, and it cannot be overstated. That point has come up out here, meaning here in Northern California, Central California, on more than a couple of occasions. I'm glad you brought it up because you look at their farm system, you know, their team, you know, they're right down from AAA on down, and there's a lot of folks that clearly felt they were going to get elevated and maybe will not get elevated. It's a lot like there's a major, I'll just say this, there's a major D1 school here on the West Coast, and within the structure of finding your way up as an associate AD and so on, one person at this particular department was favored by the AD, and that individual got pulled up about 3 levels to a position they didn't necessarily qualify for yet and had gone by everybody else. And that caused a significant amount of unrest in that department. Mm-hmm. So going back to your point, you know, there's steps to the kingdom, right? And when somebody gets to pass go, you know, that creates a certain amount of consternation. I think that's a very valuable point. And we've been talking about this from the standpoint of, or at least I have been with you guys talking about it, is what's Danny doing to try to ensure that Tony stays? Well, now if we flip it to your point, Mo, what is the Giants organization doing trying to assuage some of the frustrations that have probably come out from members of that organization? It's a great point, and it can't be thrown out of hand.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. As always, great conversation. Great to have you with us. Look forward to getting you back again. Left some on the table here, but we will get back. So, CG, thanks.
Well, listen, I wasn't able to make the last couple because I had different things going on, including being a privilege to being a part of Honor Flight with 67 veterans here going to Washington, D.C. But it's always so great to see both you and Wade. I always look at Wade and I always worry that Wade is like, why did we have him on with us today? Why
yeah, right, buddy. in your dream, CG.
No, I love coming on with you guys. It's a great treat, and anytime that I can be here to hang out with you, I'm all in. And another day that we didn't have to talk about the White Sox, which is a great day.
There we go. Chris, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you.
Right on, fellas.
All right. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Let's come back. Let's talk some Major League Baseball. Stick around.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
October 20th, 1996, powered by a pair of home runs from 19-year-old Andrew Jones, the Atlanta Braves opened the World Series with a 12-1 win at Yankee Stadium. Jones' second inning two-run homer got the visitors on the board, and his three-run shot an inning later extended the lead to 8-0, while making him the youngest player to post a multi-homer game in the World Series. David Weathers threw 1 2/3 scoreless innings out of the Yankee bullpen, but by then the damage was done. That was this day in Braves history. You know, anytime I don't know if you did or not, but I feel like you probably didn't either. But, you know, Shohei Ohtani did two things Friday night that a Major League Baseball player would just be overjoyed to do. I mean, he struck out 10 guys in a series clinching victory. He hit 3 home runs in a series clinching victory. I mean, you do one of those and you're in some pretty elite territory. He did them both in the same game. And I've kind of resisted it, but if he is not the best player in baseball, I'm not sure who is.
Yeah, I mean, how could it be anybody else? Who is doing that at that high a level? It's not as if he's just showing up in, you know, a token bat or a token pitching appearance. I mean, eye-popping numbers on both sides of the ball.
When the spotlight is the brightest, when it means the most. I mean, Now, I mean, granted, the Dodgers were up 3-0, but still, it's a series clinching victory, and this guy does that in that environment, in those surroundings. Like I said, I'm convinced he is that dude. Period.
He's that dude, and he must have a source inside the Main Street Sports Today group chat, because just a couple of days prior to that, David Wilson was kind of bashing Ohtani a little bit, and then Shohei said, hold my beverage. I got
Watch
something
this.
to show you. Unreal
Yep.
stuff, just eye-popping numbers. You know, he had that crazy game earlier this year where he had like approximately 28 total bases. This dude is just out of this world. And yeah, you know, the Dodgers are the evil empire, and, you know, make of that what
They
you
are.
will. But they're the evil empire with the greatest player doing it, walking and chewing bubble gum right now, and unreal stuff. I don't know which performance is more impressive. The fact that he's fanning 10. I mean, he led off the game prior with the triple. This guy is getting it done virtually every single way that you could imagine.
And it feels like, I call it high schoolish, you know?
Yeah, man amongst boys situation.
Well, I mean, you see performances like that at the high school level because a lot of times that guy is the best guy on his team. I mean, I'm thinking Bryson Thomas at Spring Hill. I'm thinking Ryan Weathers at Loretto. You know, guys like that who are put in positions like that to do things like that. But you just don't see that at the major league level. I'm baffled.
I mean, he's the GOAT currently, and, you know, he is going. I mean, he's going to add another ring most likely. We're talking, and if he had not spent, you know, a couple of years toiling in the wilderness as part of the Angels organization, who knows where this guy would be right now. He goes out, he fans 10, and he has 3 home runs. That's one less. That's for those counting 1, 2, 3. That's one less than interceptions that Carson Beck threw on Friday night. I mean, Ohtani was putting up eye-popping numbers. And yeah, it's on the Dodgers, so it's easy to kind of overlook or write off. They might still be good enough to win it without Ohtani, which is crazy to think about. But with this guy, unbelievable stuff, and he is must-see TV no matter when and where he comes across your dial.
And by getting it done on Friday night and sweeping the Brewers, they get to sit and watch Toronto and Seattle beat up on each other. They've got a Game 7 coming up tonight here at 7:10, courtesy of that 6-2 Blue Jays win last night. So the Dodgers are saying, hey, play as long as y'all want to.
Yeah, Dodgers
take all the toll on that bullpen and everything else. We love it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the crazy thing, too. They got a guy like Sasaki coming out of the back end of the bullpen who is in that series versus Milwaukee. He's virtually unhittable. We've talked so much about their starting pitching, and you got a guy like him that's just been out of this world, too. They have virtually no holes. MLB, luckily, Major League Baseball is a game that, you know, the favorite doesn't always win. But, man, it's hard not to see. And I love Dave Roberts, you know, saying, hey, have we ruined baseball yet? You know, when they're celebrating, popping champagne. I like the fact that they're embracing being the evil empire as well.
I didn't realize Doc had that pettiness in him, but apparently he does. So, yeah. Yeah, let's win one more series and really ruin baseball. Yeah. Speaking of ruins, let's take a break. Let's come back and let's talk about the home team at Nissan Stadium here as we head into hour number 2 of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Stay tuned. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. This is the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Wade, were you at the game yesterday? I know you do some stuff over at Nissan.
Yeah, we were there.
I mean, it's 13-10 with just under 2 minutes to play, and then Sly's kickoff goes out of bounds, and that kind of opened the door for the Patriots there. It felt like right before halftime, they get a 39-yard touchdown pass. They go in up 17-13 at the half. And, you know, something as innocent as a kickoff out of bounds. I mean, I don't know that New England wouldn't have won the game regardless, Titans being who they are. But it just felt like you gave them a little bit of a surge there right there before halftime, and they were able to take advantage of it. New England 31, Tennessee 13, your final. I don't know that anybody necessarily expected Tennessee to win that game going in, but at the same time, again, it's 13-10 with 2 minutes left at till halftime. If you can get to halftime with that 3-point lead somehow, who knows what happens in the final 2 quarters?
Who knows what happens in the final 2 quarters? I mean, it's a long game, but I mean, it was. There were some moments where, you know, you're thinking the Titans are really in business here. We saw them with their first quarter touchdown. We saw them with their first lead more than 3 points all season when they can make it 10-3 when DK gets reeled up for that 38-yard strike from Cam Ward. So, I mean, there were some signs early. And then kind of unfortunate luck for the Titans yet again. When Simmons goes out and you hear the news, questionable, a.k.a. unlikely to return,
right.
The Titans are not built to win. They need a lot of things to go in their favor. They need a lot of people to be healthy. And any part of that equation that gets removed, things get really, really wobbly. And it's going to take a fluke a la of what we saw in Arizona a couple weeks ago for them to probably win a game. And so Simmons gets plugged out. We saw the offensive line kind of crumble, especially in the second half. And, yeah, we shouldn't really be surprised. But, man, it was fun to dream for a quarter and a half.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and the dream was there for sure. But, yeah, some more untimely turnovers for the rookie quarterback, Cam Ward, who was sacked 5 times yesterday. You talk about that offensive line crumbling. Ward's 5 sacks yesterday. He's been sacked 30 times in 7 games. And anytime you are a quarterback and your name is being mentioned alongside David Carr with sacks in mind, it's not a good thing. The 2002 Houston Texans rookie took 76 of them in 16 games. Now, these numbers don't quite equate to that, but they don't come up nearly as short of that as you would like.
No, and you know, it's kind of back to the drawing board. You were hoping maybe for a little bit of an extra pop, a little bit of a boost. But you know, we saw some good, especially early from Cam Ward. We certainly saw some bad. And the guy, when he's under pressure, things can be dicey to say the least. But we also saw, you know, some of that old fumbleitis that was kind of the knock on him at Miami with those smaller hands kind of coming to fruition, putting one on the ground there. And it was, again, the Titans have to virtually play a perfect game versus any reasonable opponent in this league to come up with the win. And they didn't play that perfect game by any stretch of the imagination yesterday.
Ward 25 of 34, 255 passing yards, threw for a touchdown, had a pick, had the fumble, like you mentioned. Again, had the 5 sacks. It is football. It's not all the quarterback's fault, but they certainly get a.
It was last year, that's for sure.
Did you see the one play where he was rolling it? He was being pursued and he kind of came out to his left and he started to flip that ball out there to somebody. I didn't see who was out there, if anybody, but looked like he started to flip it a la last year's quarterback and then pulled it back down and just went down with it.
Didn't see that, but when you describe that, I mean, it reminds you of what you just saw 2 weeks ago, right? Where he does do the dump pass as he's falling to the ground. So, I mean, you kind of want that. To Christopher Gabriel's point a minute ago with Aguilar, I mean, me personally, I want a guy that's going to try and Levis was right there in that mix too. I want a guy that's going to go for it. And at least if you're going for it, you got to live and die with the variance that comes with that. But I would much rather live and die with the variance than not really have much of a shot with kind of a game manager type situation. And, frustrating day for the Titans to say the least. Not that we were anticipating this. The Patriots improved to 5-2, but the offensive line did not do any favors in terms of running game. Patriots have now played 7 games. They've yet to yield 50 yards in any game on the ground. Tony Pollard is a real kind of question mark for me after a fantastic season last year. Saw a little extra juice from Tajay Spears, but the Titans, when they're not able to run the ball, it was nice seeing Cam Ward go play action on the very first play of the game on first down. My head nearly exploded when I saw a play action on first down. The creativity and the play calling was impressive early, but things kind of wilted. And again, it goes back to the point. They have to be perfect, and they were not perfect yesterday.
To that point, the loss notwithstanding, what did you feel like you saw out of Mike McCoy in his first game as interim coach?
Saw a guy that's, riding out the ship with a 1-6 team. It was nice seeing him run the steps in the pregame. He got me a little fired up, channeling his inner Vrabel, who likes to run the steps too, so he wasn't moving quite at the clip that the previous 2 head coaches ago was moving there at Nissan. But, if you're looking for a guy that's going to come in and woo everybody and win this job by leading this team on some crazy run down the stretch, he was never going to be that guy, I don't think. This is a lifelong NFL guy that his head coaching window had pretty much passed on until he found himself in this situation here in Nashville. So it'd be nice to see some perhaps continued development, and hopefully a veteran leader like a Mike McCoy can maybe instill some of that. The bump was there early, but they have to sustain that throughout. I mean, things did not necessarily go well by any stretch. Blanked in the second half and really blanked from beyond the first quarter.
Yeah. And the Vrabel chance probably didn't help things any either.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. And it's a fair question. I mean, there was a ton of New England fans. They're the sleepy, forgotten nationwide bandwagon franchise. You think of the Cowboys, you think of the Steelers, sometimes you even think of the Raiders in that regard. But the Pats, they traveled well, and not a lot of New England accents from a lot of those jerseys that I heard yesterday. If you catch my drift.
It was pretty wild watching it on TV and hearing the positive Patriot reaction to plays and that kind of thing. Wasn't expecting that. Like you said, they showed up and showed out at Nissan yesterday. Again,
well, especially in the second half when the game is basically over, beginning in or mid third quarter, right? I mean, it was essentially a Southie reunion there in that regard with all the Pats fans that were lingering, cheering to the very end.
Aside from that result, what jumped out at you across the NFL yesterday?
Yesterday was by far the worst day of NFL games in perhaps the history of the NFL. A putrid slate, which is why I got high hopes and expectations for tonight to hopefully save us, because from top to bottom, that early window, I was glad to be at Nissan because at least I didn't have to watch some of those other games. They were bad from start to finish. But if you do want to, call out any individuals, I don't know. Something must have been said or something must have happened because the Eagles all of a sudden fancy themselves as a passing team. Jalen Hurts, electric, 19 to 23, 326 yards. A.J. Brown, he didn't have his book on the sideline, but he certainly looked good, including a great catch to seal the game, and he goes down and takes the knee, in a sense, to end the game and basically let them run the clock out. 4 catches for 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Eagles, all of a sudden, not necessarily as one-dimensional as we might have thought.
Yeah, he and Devontae Smith combined for what, 300 receiving yards?
Combined for 300. They needed every bit of that. The Vikings have a really good defense with Flores calling the shots and scheming things up there. But if you are going to worry, all of a sudden maybe the Eagles get the bad taste out of their mouth. But 2 things. Number one, Saquon Barkley still cannot get it going to the tune that he had last year by any means, running the ground. And he tweaked his ankle a little bit, it looked like. So some scary moments there. That was what jumped out to me in the early window. And then we did get lucky. The NFL, I don't know if the script writers made an audible or what happened, but they threw us an absolute lifeline with the Giants and the Broncos down the stretch, because an epic, epic game. 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the league going toe-to-toe. Bo Nix threw 50 passes yesterday as the Broncos rallied. That game, 46 points in the fourth quarter combined. I mean, it was insanity as the Giants let one slip through their fingertips.
Big time. I think I saw that was the first time a team had an 18-point lead with 6 minutes or more or less, 6 minutes or less to play and lost in NFL history. Now,
electric game. Again, I don't know if the script writers, it was 13-0 and, it ends up getting up to 19-0. And you're thinking, oh man, the Giants are making the Broncos look pretty pedestrian here. I don't know if they tossed the script in the trash and came up with something new, but thank goodness they did, because that saved the entire afternoon. Thank goodness. That was electric stuff down the stretch.
It saved the entire afternoon. What's it do for Dayball? Anything? Nothing?
Nothing. You still got a young quarterback, and you made the move. This worked out beautifully for him, if nothing else, right? You make the move to Dart, and you've looked great in every single game. Yeah, you've lost some. Yeah, you've won a few too. And you extend the lifeline further. Say, hey, man, if we had only made this move, or thank goodness we got this guy. It's going to be fascinating. The window was potentially teetering if the Giants had won that game and the Eagles had lost. That division would have really felt wide open. It feels like the Eagles might have kind of strangled control back in their grasp. They wrestled control back in their grasp. But what we saw from the Cowboys and Commanders, and now what we saw from the Giants taking a loss, another hard-fought loss, I think he's going to be okay. But, man, big showdown versus Philly in Lincoln Financial this weekend.
Kind of a double whammy for Giants fans, though, because Danny Dimes, 23 of 34, 288 passing yards and a pair of touchdowns, and Jonathan Taylor in a 38-24 win over the Chargers. Indianapolis, 6-1.
Yes, and luckily they got Dart, because Danny Dimes is an afterthought when you see what you got with your young guy there, I think, for most Giants fans. But the Colts look like world beaters yet again. And I know the Chargers, we've talked about it on the show, how banged and beat up they are, but they bullied them. And Jonathan Taylor is, unless somebody comes and grabs it from him over the final half of the season, he is your offensive player of the year this year.
For all the bashing of Cleveland, Miami apparently is worse.
Correct.
Browns 31, Dolphins 6. Man, that's just straight ugly.
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching, do you maybe just go ahead and give it to Quinn Ewers for the rest of the season territory? Because unless you make a coaching change, unless you make something outside of a win over the only winless team in the NFL, my beloved New York Jets, the Dolphins would be right there in the winless category as well. They're about as bad as it gets. It was so bad, Mo. I don't know if you saw this, but Tyreek Hill saw this shared to me. He was tweeting, and he was talking about the Dolphins game, and, he was keeping tabs on it. And then 5 minutes later, he was tweeting about the Chiefs game. My man turned off his own game. I guarantee he turned off his own game and was talking about the Chiefs on socials yesterday.
Well, the Chiefs bore talking about 31-0 over Vegas.
He was sitting there, probably with his feet and legs kicked up and resting, and said, I am not watching these guys. I'm watching my old squad here. And yeah, the Raiders are bad, but the Chiefs look like back to a well-oiled machine. The Chargers seemingly are going to fall by the wayside. The more things change, the more they stay the same with KC right there. That was a good win for them. To your original point, though, the Browns, their defense is elite. So it's, they kind of bullied. They put the Dolphins in a phone booth and stuffed them in a locker, to say the least. So much so, Quinshon Judkins, he didn't even go over 100 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns as well. They could have ran him a lot more, but Gabriel didn't even have to do much. He only attempted 18 passes in the battle between the 2 left-handed Hawaiian quarterbacks yesterday.
That's nice. That's a good pool right there. 6 o'clock tonight on ABC, Tampa Bay and Detroit. The visiting Buccaneers 5-1, Detroit 4-2. Relatively marquee matchup here.
Oh yeah, I mean these are two Super Bowl contenders. I mean you can make the case for the Lions, you can make the case for the Bucks, depending on which shade of color you want to argue right there. These are maybe your two best teams in the NFC for sure. And, maybe the NFL. And we just continue to see Tampa Bay snatch wins out of miraculous situations. It feels like tonight, though. It feels like tonight, if they get in a bad situation, they will not be able to come back versus the Lions. I'm hoping we get some theatrics, though. I hope it's a great game. I would not be shocked if either team. Detroit's favored by nearly 7 points playing at home, but I would not be shocked if Tampa Bay maybe grabs some momentum early, some mojo, and hangs on. But it just doesn't feel like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel like MVP Baker will be able to make another comeback if it comes down to that.
Yeah. Mike Evans is supposed to play tonight. Does that change your perception? Or did you know that?
Well, he perhaps is needed to play because Egbuka, your rookie of the year, is unlikely to play, most likely. So, I mean, tit for tat or, 1 for 1. If Evans doesn't play and Egbuka is for sure out, then, yeah, they're in a world of hurt. That number will get even higher. But if Evans comes back, it's out of bare necessity right there, it feels like, with Egbuka being sidelines.
And as we mentioned in the rundown, Houston and Seattle, the late game tonight on ESPN, 9 o'clock kick. Still not quite sure what to make of Houston. They in a not great division, they've been not great either.
Hadn't been great, but they are finding things. And their offensive line may not ever get it together because of so much turmoil this offseason. But, I mean, let's look at it. They lost to the Rams. They lost to the Bucks. Had kind of a throwaway loss to the Jaguars. But other than that, they're sitting there with wins over the Titans and the Ravens. Tonight is maybe the first real game that you would almost chalk up to 50-50 for the Texans, who are suddenly, winners of 2 straight. This is going to be a pretty ugly game just because these are 2 of the elite defenses in the NFL. So I'm not looking for offensive fireworks tonight, other than maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba, who could be the only other guy, maybe giving Jonathan Taylor a run for his money in terms of offensive player of the year. But it won't be as sexy and glamorous as the Bucks and Lions, but this will be a fun one in its own unique way tonight. Seahawks are sneaky good as well.
This won't be the one to necessarily keep you awake late like it needs to for you to see all 4 quarters, huh?
I mean, I'll be watching for it just because I'm a sicko and I like these 2 defenses. And the Seahawks, if not for a late collapse versus the Bucks, they'd be sitting there with just 1 loss at the start. They'd be winners of 5 straight. Mike McDonald's got them playing some good football in a division with them and the Rams kind of duking it out, it feels like. The 49ers, we saw flex their muscle again late on the Sunday night. Sorry to your beloved Atlanta Falcons there, but it is setting up to be another fun NFC West division battle again this year.
Yeah. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will check in with Billy Derrick of Vandy247.com, talking little Commodores. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Joining us now from Vandy247.com, it's Billy Derrick. The then 17th ranked Vanderbilt Commodores picking up a 31-24 win over the weekend against visiting Louisiana State, making, like I said, the then 17th ranked Commodores 10th in this week's Associated Press poll. Billy, where are you at?
I'm in a Starbucks parking lot in Green Hills.
Keeping it
You're
close
brave.
to campus.
You are brave, man. Hey,
Yeah.
So tell us about this game, and I've had to correct a couple of folks or a couple of statements on social media and that kind of thing. This wasn't an upset. I don't even know. It kind of feels like to me you kind of, you're kind of putting your own credibility at risk when you call this an upset. Vanderbilt winning this ball game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vanderbilt was a slight favorite. I think it switched back and forth from 2.5 to 1.5, leading up to kickoff. But yeah, I mean, look, Vanderbilt expected to win. I think it says something that they didn't storm the field. And the announcers towards the end of the game were talking about that. And this is an expectation with this program now to have the number 10 team in the country, LSU, come to your building. The expectation is to win the game. And, they physically dominated LSU at the line of scrimmage, both on the offensive and defensive line. And obviously it helps to have Diego Pavia, the magician in the backfield, making plays like the 4th and 1 that he made to keep the momentum on Vandy's side. And they converted another 4th down, 4th and goal with a handoff to Cedric Alexander. And, it's not just Diego Pavia. I think that's the guy everybody's talking about right now, Diego
Right.
Pavia. But man, I mean, Cole Spence, the tight end, had 4 or 5 catches, and Stowers was doing his thing. Sherrill had a nice grab. So, the defense as well. I mean, they had to hold LSU the last couple of possessions there, and that you could argue helped to win them the game as well. So. Pavia is a huge part of this team, obviously, but I think people are realizing the program that Clark Lee has built, and with the help of Barton Simmons, all the players they have brought in through the transfer portal, whether it's a guy like an Eli Stowers who's now been here for year 2, and some other guys on the offensive line. The clip has gone viral of Cade McConnell pancaking 2 guys. So it's a different mentality, Maurice, and obviously as long as you've watched this program, this hasn't happened. I mean, the last time they were a top 10 team was 1941, and the last time they beat LSU was 1990. So, they keep rewriting history. And I think at this point, Vanderbilt fans obviously are thrilled, but the rest of the country is starting to lock in on this program now and see what they can do. See if they can keep this train rolling.
And kudos to game day ops at First Bank Stadium. Last year after they beat Alabama, they had the Nick Saban video queued up, and they had plenty of time to get ready for it because Vanderbilt controlled that thing from the opening kick to the closing horn. Last Saturday after the win, they played Colin Baton Rouge by Garth Brooks. I mean,
Control game strong.
Yeah, no doubt. No, Stay petty so you don't have to get petty over on West End, I guess. But big stuff. They are enjoying this run as much as anybody, I guess.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think, you know, Vanderbilt, as soon as their football program started winning, obviously started with the Alabama win last year. You kind of had a feeling that some things like this were coming, especially after I think the Virginia Tech game, it all started there. I think they had some things queued up there, but you beat Alabama, and you played Nick Saban's comments, and even I don't know if you guys saw the drone show or saw some clips of that. It was at halftime of the Utah State, not Utah State, it was actually Georgia State, the night game a few weeks back. And they played during the drone show, they played Enter Sandman, but and then they also played they played Sandstorm, the South Carolina song. So they're taking advantage of all this, but that's not always easy to do either. A lot of over the years, I know you guys have had Chris Leon, who's obviously with Vandy 24/7. He's talked all about kind of the missed opportunities within the marketing department and within the administration, but there's full alignment right now, whether it's the administration, whether it's the marketing team. They just sort of kicked off the Diego Pavia Heisman campaign as well. So they're all in right now. And you're right that like Vanderbilt right now not only is the talk of Nashville, but College Game Day obviously coming on Saturday. They're finally gaining that national respect. I think that Clark Lee we'll talk about how they don't care about that, and they're fully locked in and zoned in on the players in their program and what has to happen for them to win each week. But it's hard to ignore what this program is doing. I think now finally nationally, people are taking notice and fully realizing like, okay, this team is legit. Like this is not a cute little story anymore. This team will beat you, and they will go into your stadium. They will clear out your stadium, and they cleared out the LSU fans, and it's going to be another challenge this week. But yeah, you're right. They've taken advantage of their opportunities, and that's what comes with winning.
And it won't be a fireable offense if you lose to this team.
No.
So
no. Missouri's a really good football team, and this should be a close game. It's going to be fun because both quarterbacks are very elusive and can run the football. Ahmad Hardy is unbelievable for Missouri, and who would have thought that Vanderbilt and Missouri would be the game of the week, featured on College Game Day in Nashville, nonetheless. And all eyes would be on these two teams, and so it's going to be a scene.
And Billy, you say that Clark says that they don't care about this stuff, and I get that. I mean, that's kind of what a coach is supposed to say, but at the same time, this exposure, on the recruiting trail and that kind of thing, these kids that you are trying to get into your program are seeing this, and it's got to have some sort of an impact, because now you're not just selling some nebulous, here's what we want to do. It's here's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they had a huge day of visitors. A bunch of 4 or 5 4-star guys were in town for the game. Andre Adams, the stud at Antioch, obviously was there, and that they showed some video of the post game celebration, and I'm sure they'll put a video out like most teams do now of kind of chronicling the game and showing some of that. But in some of the videos I saw, a lot of those visitors were celebrating with the team and a part of the team, and they've done a really good job of that. It's been tough. Obviously, Clark has talked about this. He said, man, it's been tough bringing guys to campus. A lot of it for us, you bring them to campus and, they look over to the other sideline and there's, 20,000 Georgia fans or 20,000 LSU fans. And you're looking around going, man, do we have a home field advantage here? But that's starting to change a little bit. And, they say relatedness is their edge. It's more about the people than the facilities and anything else. But now they're starting to get those facilities. I mean, you had a nice look of what First Bank Stadium has turned into, and that's a part of it. You have to have the facilities and the things around it, but you've also got to have the people. And Vanderbilt has the people in place, like you said, and as much as they can say, hey, we're locked in, we don't care about the exposure. it's so big for this pro. It's easy to see, the momentum they have, and with game day coming, Clark will be able to go on game day and speak in front of a national audience, and we'll see who the guest picker is and all that. But you know, they've got to kind of fight through some of that. It's a challenge. All these extra interviews this week with game day, and so it's going to be interesting to see because they had a lot of eyes on him in the Alabama game a couple of weeks back, and I think that kind of got to him a little bit. I thought Pavia pressed a little bit. We'll see if they learned from that and can sort of avoid that here against Missouri because I mean each week the more you win, if this team keeps winning, the tougher each game is going to get and the more eyes that are going to be on them.
Yeah, while we're kind of walking down this path, Billy, I mean, if you missed the boat on Pavia and the Heisman odds, those numbers have certainly taken a hit. Did this week, and especially, mid-October, maybe a little too early to flash the pose and then throwing up the money Manziel. But did he maybe at least secure an invite in your mind with that performance this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you can't watch that game and think to yourself he doesn't deserve recognition. Now, the invite at this point, I do think it's maybe still a little early, but I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. You look at some of this right now, Julian Sayin at Ohio State and Mendoza at Indiana, and I think Gunnar Stockton's up there, Marcel Reed.
Reed?
Yeah, Marcel Reed, of course. I think you could put Marcel Reed in this offense, and I think he could do a lot of the same things. But does he have that toughness? Does he have that edge and that swagger that you have to have? And I don't know if there's another quarterback ahead of Pavia in the voting that could have them at 6-1 right now. I mean, look at Julian saying that he's got all day to throw. I mean, and the first time he faces a pass rush will be the first time he faces a pass rush. I mean, so like I do think I think he elevated his standing. Now, if you go beat Missouri, I think that's a game where, okay, this guy you could say should get an invite. I told somebody the other day too. Right now, it feels like Mendoza, maybe Carson Beck, and then of course maybe Sayin, and then Pavia for the quarterbacks. I know you've got Jeremiah Love and Malachi Lemon at USC, but this is kind of the perfect storm of a year where it kind of works out to where there isn't a slam dunk Heisman candidate right now. And why not Pavia? I mean, he's done more as the Vanderbilt quarterback than they did from 2019 to 2023 before he got there. He has 13 wins as the Vanderbilt quarterback. Before he got there, those previous years combined, they had 12 wins. So he has put this team on his back. And, like I said, you've got to have a supporting cast. And I think something that might go unnoticed is the offensive line. They love protecting for him. And I mentioned Cade McConnell with a couple of pancakes there. They've got a center in Jordan White, who was the offensive lineman of the week, who came over from Liberty, who's a really talented player. Bryce Henderson from North Dakota, who's 6'7", 330. Like this is a big physical offensive line, and they invested in it. They went out and got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football because they knew they had to protect Pavia, and he's had a lot of clean pockets. And the way they protect for him in the run game is one thing, but they've given him time in the pass game as well. And I'm with you, Wade. Why not? Why not have Pavia in the Heisman race right now? And like I said, if you beat Missouri, he might just secure an invite.
Keep it rolling. I mean, when he showed up with the ski mask on, I knew LSU was in a little bit of trouble on Saturday. But real quick, Billy, flipping sides of the football, what can you tell us about the defense? Because they got gashed versus Alabama, especially on the ground. 200 yards in the second half allowed. What did you see that you liked, or was it maybe LSU just kind of having to go one-dimensional in the second half? Tell me a little bit about the Vanderbilt defense.
Yeah, you're right about Tuscaloosa. I mean, Ty Simpson really picked them apart. Vanderbilt was kind of sitting in cover two and just, they sent pressure, but Alabama picked it up. And that's kind of Vandy's calling card. They have to send pressure on a lot of occasions to sack the quarterback. They've been better about getting pressure with four. But LSU, I think it was a lot of their offensive line. I mean, their left tackle, Tyree Adams, went out. I think that was second quarter. And Vanderbilt just attacked DJ Chester, the backup that went in, and And that I think it was a lot about that LSU offensive line. Missouri's offensive line is better. But this defense is very opportunistic. When they need a stop, they've typically been able to get it. They've been bending a good bit, but they don't break very often. They force field goals, and the biggest play in this LSU game, one of the biggest plays, was Jordan Matthews, Vandy's corner. Ironic the name. He chases down Caden Durham for LSU at the 2-yard line after about a 50-yard run, and LSU doesn't score there. They get a field goal. And that was a touchdown saving play, maybe a game saving play. So they preach defending every blade of grass because it's to their value. And they did it on that play. And so yeah, look, they're not going to have very many NFL draft picks, I don't think, on this defense, maybe a few. But it's about the unit as a whole, and they've gotten more athletic. But Steve Gregory, their defensive coordinator, who was actually the green dot for the New England Patriots when they won some of their Super Bowls under Brady, he's a genius on defense. And Clarkley had to make a decision to turn it over to him. That's not easy to do. And for Clark to be able to take more of a CEO role on the team, I think has helped a lot. But you're right about this defense. They've taken advantage of their opportunities, and even against Alabama. I thought they played as well as they possibly could have. They forced some field goals there in the second half against Alabama, but they definitely have to keep playing well and continuing to bend, but don't break. And that's been their style of play. They'll give up yards. They'll give you a couple of first downs on some drives and get you into the red zone. But they have been really good in the red zone and forcing field goals instead of touchdowns.
Some good play up front too, and this hurts me and Mo, Billy, because Zaylen Wood looked pretty good in MTSU blue before he starts wreaking havoc there on the defensive line for the Commodores. He had a nice sack this weekend.
Yeah, he did. He bull rushed. That was the backup left tackle, DJ Chester, and just annihilated him. And Nussmeier, poor Nussmeier. I thought he played really well. He did all he could. A lot of his throws were off his back foot with pressure coming in his face. Vanderbilt was sending. I mean, there was a play, if you remember, Trades Green, their tight end, broke loose for a touchdown there early. Vanderbilt sent the house on that play. So I think there's some pros and cons to their style of defense. They're going to send pressure, but if you're a good enough quarterback to read that and get it off to your running back or get it off to your tight end, you can have some success against this defense. But they've been able to get enough pressure. And you're right about Zaylen Wood. He's a guy that didn't play a ton last year. He had an injury. He suffered an injury against Virginia Tech last year. And, he's a guy, he's not huge, but he's very twitchy. He's really athletic. And that's the type of guy they have on that defensive line. They don't have, they're not huge.
No
but they're
studs,
very
but
twitchy.
just some dogs up front, it seems like.
Yeah, and they're athletic. They can move, and they've got defensive ends, that can chase down a running back 30 yards downfield. So they're really athletic, and they play to their head coach Clarkley, who's obviously a defensive mastermind, and he preaches all the time that throughout a season there's going to be 5, 6, maybe 7 plays that have to be made if we want to get to where we want to go, which, he's talked about playing into January and being in the playoff and winning a national title. They're not shying away from that. That's their expectation. And, it's rubbed off on the guys and on defense. I talk about how old the offensive line is. This is another really old defense. Is Zaylen Wood. He's played a ton of football. Corday Sidner on the edge is a talented guy as well. Miles Capers has played a ton of football. So they're just guys, like you said, they're just aggressive and they love playing football. This is a lot of guys last year playing football. So I think that's made a big difference.
Billy Derrick of Indy247.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Vanderbilt, excuse me, a 3-point favorite as Missouri comes to town on Saturday. And as you look at the rest of the schedule, man, they go to Texas a week from Saturday. They've got Auburn coming here after an open date. They've got Kentucky, and then they finish up at Knoxville. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Vanderbilt would be favored in each of its regular season games the rest of the way.
Crazy. I mean, the lines have shifted dramatically. I think after you go to Virginia Tech and beat them, and then after you go to Columbia and beat South Carolina, and this team is sitting at 5-0 heading into Alabama. I think that's when Vegas went, okay, we need to change some things. I went and looked on ESPN and looked at some of the percentages of some of their games, and they were favored to beat LSU. They were favored to beat Missouri. Obviously now favored against Auburn and Kentucky. I mean, that Kentucky game, that could be a 7 to 10 point line at this point. I mean, so, and in Knoxville, with it being in Knoxville, I could see that being, 2, 3, maybe in favor of Tennessee, but I mean, who knows? Maybe Tennessee drops another one, and Vandy ends up being the favorite there too. So, I think it helps them too that Texas doesn't look like a world beater
Right.
anymore. The preseason #1, and
Except
and
against Oklahoma. Other than that, they look
uh,
pedestrian.
yeah, I mean, and you got a good look at Auburn and Missouri on Saturday. I mean, Missouri really struggled to win that game. You could argue Auburn should have won that game. So, look, it's still the SEC. Vanderbilt can win every game on their schedule, but they could also lose every game on their schedule. I mean, and you could say that about a lot of teams. I think that's just where the SEC is at right now. And I think for Vanderbilt, they just you've got to, if you play like you did against LSU, I think you're right, Mo. I think they've got a legit shot to win every game on their schedule. And it's crazy to think about that because of where they have come from. I mean, last year they do go 7-6, but just a year before that, they were 2-10. And now we're talking about this program being a national title contender, a playoff contender, which is just so impressive, and a full credit to Clark Lee, Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, and everybody on the staff and everything they've done.
Billy Derrick joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Billy, really appreciate your insight and appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate
in
it.
the Starbucks parking lot.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, you're right about being brave. It's brutal. This is probably the worst time to be on this street, but I'm gonna hope I get home.
Now, is that the one right there, just north of Richard Jones? I guess it's on
I think
the
you're
right.
right. Yeah, right next to Hillsboro and
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably one of the worst in Nashville, especially at this time.
We love the dedication, brother.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Good luck getting out of there.
Thanks, guys. Let me know if you need me again. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a break here on the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today. Let's come back and get into the grab bag as we wrap things up here. Stay tuned.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
Welcome back into the final segment of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Billy Napier probably went home Saturday night after a 23-20 Florida win over Mississippi State and kind of exhaled a sigh of relief, maybe. And then Sunday comes, And Billy's looking for boxes. Billy Napier dismissed at Florida Sunday. Billy Gonzalez, longtime assistant, has been named the interim coach of the Gators. That win got Napier to 22-23 for his career at the University of Florida. Excuse me. He is the first Florida coach. Let me find this because I want to get it right. First coach, I guess.
Hang on, we lost you
that
for a second there, Mo.
in and of itself.
Lost you
Can you hear
briefly
me?
there. I got you.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay,
Welcome back, brother.
Well, thanks. It's good to be here. Good Lord. And I can't find it. Again, first coach in like 60 years to end their Florida tenure with a losing record. So
Tough sledding. And, I wondered about this on Friday. We talked about it in the,
it's been coming, I guess.
Yeah, we talked about it during the Wonder Slate a little bit. I said, man, don't be surprised if even he gets the can after a win, and, a win that really felt like a loss. The crowd was booing. They were short of throwing trash on the field, which kind of tells you just how grim it has been. And, the real interesting question, and everybody's talked about this, we've even mentioned it, Mo, you could have fired this guy a year ago, and you would have been the absolute belle of the ball in terms of the coaching carousel. Now you enter one of the most chaotic coaching carousels that hasn't even fully opened up yet. And, the question will be, you assume it's going to be the crown jewel, but as many more openings, LSU perhaps, there's a lot of questions of whether or not Florida should have maybe done that a year ago. But yes, after a long, long time, the national nightmare for the folks in Gainesville is finally over.
And it's nobody really thinks about this, but it's had to have been tough on Napier as well. Just continuing to hear this kind of conversation swirling around him and that kind of thing, and you just kind of hanging there, and so everybody else is just letting you dangle out there, and that's tough. Now he gets paid for it.
Yeah, and
that's tough.
Yeah, gets paid for it. Not James Franklin money by any means, but he's going to get a healthy check to not coach for a while if he doesn't. But to your point, yes, massive props and massive credit, because that guy was still going about his business and still reeling off a couple unexpected kind of Houdini-like victories while the hangman's noose was kind of lingering around, right? He kind of escaped death a few different times, but ultimately it was not enough. And yes, it is a grim situation. First time, to your point a minute ago, first time since the 40s that a Gator coach departs with a losing record.
Yeah, and one place where Napier will come out ahead of Franklin is his $21 buyout does not have any offsets in it. He's going to get his money, as Nolan Richardson so famously said before he left Arkansas. He's going to get 21 mil straight up. Apparently Franklin's situation is whatever job he gets, the compensation for it will be subtracted from that 48 or 49 million buyout that he's got. But at any rate, Billy Napier out at the University of Florida. Florida State fans probably got a little excited as well when they heard yesterday that Norvell had been dismissed, and then they realized it was Jay Norvell at Colorado State and not Mike Norvell of the Seminoles.
Yeah, they got a little happy right there. Speaking of which, by the way, we thought James Franklin was going to get paid. If Mike Norvell gets the can, he is going to get paid, ladies and gentlemen, to the tune of $58 million, so nearly $10 million more not to coach if Florida State decides to go. And I do find it comical that ever since Florida State and Clemson, kind of got together and basically said we're too big for the ACC, Florida State has not won a conference game. They have been the absolute dregs of the ACC ever since they said, we really don't need you guys. We might go somewhere else.
Including the loss to Stanford most recently. So
Yeah, Friday night, awful situation. Making the cross country trip to play Stanford did not end well. Real quick though, the Florida move, the timing is, and that's why I thought win or lose, it could possibly happen. They got the bye week this week, kind of a chance to naturally reset the deck before you maybe. If Napier would have been there, maybe they got a puncher's chance versus Georgia in 2 weeks, but a chance to kind of reshuffle the deck. And yeah, that goes to the point, Mo, that Florida had a chance to do this last year and be the sole contender for the biggest job. Florida State opens up. Who knows what happens? LSU, the Bayou Bengals aren't too happy, and Brian Kelly's never happy, win or lose. So who knows what happens there? It's going to be Clark Lee if he, decides to depart. Vanderbilt's not necessarily a great job, but it is now a much more appealing job than when he first arrived on campus. There's so many potential storylines to develop, and Florida could have had everything all to themselves, but they waited, and now they're going to have to kind of play the game as it unfolds.
Yeah. With those 2 departures or dismissals over the weekend, you've got 9 in the FBS realm: Virginia Tech, UCLA, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Penn State, UAB, and Oregon State, in addition to Florida and Colorado State now under interim management. So, Florida could have done themselves some favors last year, apparently, but not to be.
Hey, you mentioned UAB. How about interim coach Alex Mortensen, son of the late Chris Mortensen, getting the dub and knocking Memphis not only from the ranks of the unbeaten, but perhaps out of the playoff.
Knocked him out of the top 25 as well. So, welcome to the head coaching role, Alex Mortensen.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, and how bad does that look for Trent Dilfer?
Pretty bad.
Yeah. Tennessee State gets off the mat again, 24-7 over Howard on homecoming this past weekend. The first win for the Tigers since their season opener against North Carolina A&T. They had dropped 5 straight since then. So congrats to the Tigers. Tennessee Tech, speaking of Big South / Ohio Valley Conference play, continues to roll. The Golden Eagles 7-0 after their 52-28 win over Lindenwood, and I think they held steady at number 7 in this week's FCS top 20. Keeping hope alive of getting a local team into the FCS championship game here at First Bank Stadium in early January.
Absolutely. And, props to Tennessee Tech, but also shout out to TSU. Cam Newton rolled down, show a little love to his brother there, and unfortunately had to take that L and head back up the other way because TSU showed a little backbone and a nice victory, though, for them. But yes, Tennessee Tech, that's the team. We talked about it a few weeks ago, right, Mo? They're up to something over there in Cookeville.
They really are. And that was a sneaky family rivalry there that Cam was showing up for because older brother Cecil played at TSU. So he had
split allegiances.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff this weekend for the Tigers. Not great stuff for the boys in gold. NSC drops its regular season finale over at Geodis 5-2 to enter Miami. And Messi reminded folks he was still around with a hat trick in that finale victory. So not necessarily surprising the outcome, but what does that do, Wade, for postseason play? Now, they did not get – take me through the postseason for NSC.
Well, for a couple things, Mo. Number one, that was shocking because they were up 2-1 in that match and then just got absolutely smoked, especially in the second half. They let Messi do Messi things, and a hat trick on your soil, that is tough. And even for the great one, that's difficult to swallow. Yes, what that does, though, is that sets up, well, hope you like seeing Messi around because you got the rematch versus Inter Miami coming up. They'll play leg 1 coming up this Friday, and then the return match will be next Saturday here at Geodis Park on Saturday, November 1st. If necessary game is needed, it'd be back in Miami the following week. So you got a chance to hopefully right some wrongs because, that was one you absolutely had in your possession, leading 2-1. That's one where you're looking at the score, and you can already, I caught myself even glancing at the Charlotte-Philadelphia score. I caught myself glancing at, the Seattle, New York City FC score, and then poof, in the blink of an eye, got blown out at home. That is a bad, bad way to end your regular season.
And, with everything that this team has done, with the U.S. Open Cup Championship and everything else, a lot of good vibes around this squad. How much did those dissipate with this outcome, do you think?
They dissipate in the sense of your bracket is now a heck of a lot tougher, and you're not, in a home field advantage situation. In a sense, you got to play that first match on the road. It would have been a lot nicer and a lot more favorable path. And the fact that we're talking about NSC in Miami, lower in the rung, if you will, in terms of your playoff matchups, the fact that Miami is still your betting favorite to win MLS Cup kind of tells you the firepower that they still have. And if not for a few slips earlier in the regular season, they probably would have ended up winning the Supporters Shield. So NSC has certainly got their work cut out for them in the sense that they've just made their road more difficult. It's not going to make the season any worse because of where you were last year and what you've already done with that U.S. Open Cup Championship. But you have a chance. If you go on a run, if you could knock Miami out of the playoffs, you're almost basically playing with house money at that point. They're basically, after getting embarrassed last year, they're playing with house money entering this postseason, at least is the way I see it.
The Preds went 1-3 through Canada, dropping a 4-1 decision at Winnipeg on Saturday, and got a goal in the third period to avoid the shutout. But coming back tomorrow night, taking on Anaheim at Bridgestone, and I'm sure they'll be happy to be home.
Going to be happy to be home, and it's going to be interesting to see. Something's up. They got the 9-game period where they can use Brady Martin before they have to decide whether to keep him or send him back to juniors. And not seeing him on this road trip, it kind of almost feels like, Mo, they're dangling a little carrot for us for these home games and a chance to sell some cheap tickets. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that. If you're going to bring him up, bring him up. And if you're not, go ahead and send him back. But the fact you're kind of cherry picking the games that he's playing, I will not be shocked if he ends up playing at home tomorrow night on Star Wars night. So hopefully they can get it, back together. A tough road trip in a sense, but the fact of the matter is it was already going to be a gauntlet. And no shame in losing, especially the way you did to Winnipeg, one of the class teams in the NHL. But after a little decent start, you would have liked to have come away with that road trip than more than what you got.
Yeah, you would like to have split that road trip if there was any way to do so.
It'd have been nice.
Yeah. But again, back on home ice tomorrow night against the Ducks. Chase Briscoe picks up the win at the Yellowwood 500 last night or yesterday at Talladega. Grabs a spot in the championship 4. One more race in the round of 8. That will be at Martinsville this weekend. And then on to the finals.
Didn't get to catch any of the race, but, Talladega usually fails to not produce some drama and some theatrics. So I'll be curious to see how this kind of really gets a couple folks, revved up as we head down the stretch here.
Chase Briscoe with the win. Todd Gilliland finishes second, followed by Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, and Cole Custer, rounding out your top 5 at Talladega on Sunday. Finally, we will not be live tomorrow because we will be manning the TSSAA state volleyball tournaments over in Murfreesboro. We've got a bunch of mid-state teams that we will be following, all 4 of us in one form or another. Calvin's Clarksville Lady Wildcats will be there. I've got Summit and Summertown. Wade, I guess you'll be paying attention to Creekwood over there. So we are all...
real quick, Mo, shout out to Casey Patrick. We're thinking for you, brother. Make a safe and speedy recovery, but I'll hold it down for you this week.
There we go. So we will be volleyballing, but there will be a best of Main Street Sports Today airing tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Be sure and check in and check it out. We'll see y'all later this week. Have a great day.